All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue the long-standing tradition of covering Japanese boxing here on True School Sports. True School Sports, the number one source for Japanese boxing in America. It is great to be seen and great to be heard once again. Make sure you guys smash that like button because, the talk, when it comes to the subject of the monster, Naoya Inoue, obviously the big topic of conversation is going to be this impending mega fight with Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Now, for a long time, I've hated the idea of an Inoue Bam Rodriguez fight, and to be honest with you, I still haven't warmed up to it fully because for the last 2 years, my thing has been I want to see Inoue at featherweight, but you can't be stubborn, you can't be an idiot. Let's be real, he's not gonna go to featherweight. None of those fights up there are big enough for him yet to even consider that. Let's just be real. The guys up at featherweight, all of them have to unify. That's just what it is, right? So the Bam Rodriguez fight makes a lot more sense. It's a guy close to him in size, a more accomplished fighter, bigger money fight, pound for pound guy. What's there to not, like about the fight? If you're not, coming from a biased standpoint like me, just being honest. But it's a massive fight. It's a fight that I've seen reports and I've seen things about them potentially in a way potentially fighting at the Japanese Olympic Stadium, which seats like upwards of 50,000 plus or 60,000 plus. Like it's a big stadium. It's a massive stadium, right? But recently, I would say roughly like 2 weeks ago, earlier in June, Eddie Hearn was talking to the media. We obviously know Eddie Hearn is the promoter of Jesse Bam Rodriguez, so he's going to be a part of staging this big fight between the monster and Bam. And he revealed something very interesting about the fight, and I think it illustrates how big that fight potentially is when you think about it, right? So he stated the following, and I quote, "Turkey Al Sheikh, Netflix, we've spoken to them. They want to see the fight. It's the biggest fight for Inoue by a mile." Now, Netflix, that right there will tell you if there is legitimate interest for Naoya Inoue to box on Netflix against Bam Rodriguez, then that means, there's a lot of money on the table because Turkey Al Sheikh is only putting fights that, he deems of the highest order and the highest quality and the highest of significance on Netflix. Crawford Canelo, Netflix. For better or for worse. Tyson Fury versus Makhmudov, which also had Conor Benn versus Poirier on the undercard. That was on Netflix, Wembley Stadium event. Right? So, in a way, I'm going to tell you guys this. As somebody who's been to Japan 3 times in the last 3 years, and I'll be going to Japan for the 4th time later on this year, so stay tuned for that announcement when I figure out when exactly that is. But I remember when I got to Japan in 2023, and I talked to a lot of people in Japan at that time. This is before Inoue had beat Stephen Fulton. He was known, of course, he was a known person in Japan, but like Tenshin Nasukawa at that time, I feel still was more popular amongst the casuals than Inoue. But every time I go back to Japan, he's a little bit more popular. And him fighting at the Tokyo Dome did a lot for his name because now he was a lot more known amongst the casuals in Japan. For sure. So, I mean, if we're talking about him potentially fighting Bam Rodriguez, a guy who is a pound-for-pound fighter in his own right, at the Olympic Stadium or maybe even the Tokyo Dome, doing this 3rd Tokyo Dome show, and it's going to be on Netflix. I mean, come on. We're talking about now we're not just talking about being a big Japanese superstar. We're talking about being a big international, transnational boxing superstar because when you talk about the Netflix, right? Hold on, Netflix subscriber base. When you talk about Netflix, right? We're talking about a subscriber base of 325 million people globally. Damn near a lot, plenty of people around the world have Netflix. Which is crazy because Paramount Plus, I believe, is in the 80 million range. Netflix has skin in the game. Netflix been around for what, like 20 years plus now. They put Blockbuster out of business. Netflix is a big deal, right? So now we're talking, and obviously, of that 325 million, how many people of that 325 are boxing fans that are going to tune in? We don't know that. But even if it's like, let's say, even if it's like 10% of that, that's still a lot of people. That's still more than you'll get fighting anywhere else. So This would be a massive for the sport of boxing. It'd be massive for the Naoya Inoue's name, Bam Rodriguez's name, and I think if you're talking about, you know, Netflix being involved, you're talking about real pound for pound supremacy. You're talking about two undefeated fighters, two of the best in the world. This is actually, whether you like it or not, it has the makings of being called a true super fight. And there's not many fights in the sport of boxing that have been made over the last 10 to 15 years, or that could be made even right now, that you could really say, yo, that's a legitimate, real blockbuster super fight. But this, I feel, is that, because of what Bam and what Inoue have achieved in their career, and then also their styles. They have fan-friendly styles. Inoue being a boxer, puncher, probably one of the most athletic fighters in boxing, one of the best finishers in boxing, and I would say now with Crawford out the sport, definitely the best performing fighter at the championship level for the better part of now a decade. And then look at Bam Rodriguez, probably one of the most technically sound, crafty, but equally destructive fighters in the sport of boxing, pound for pound today, and he's younger than Inoue. So you throw that all in a blender. You're talking about potentially a stadium fight in Japan. You're talking about Netflix being involved, arguably the biggest platform you could fight on in boxing, and it's just a massive. It's not just a massive fight in Japan. It's not just a massive fight in the U.S. It's a massive global fight. It's a massive fight for the sport of boxing. So that being said, that's the news, guys. I don't want to harp too much on it, but yeah, Netflix is really open to the idea of Bam fighting the monster on their platform. And like I said, Inoue has grown his name a lot in the last 3 years, and Inoue, we've heard the talks from his dad Shingo about him retiring. If he is to fight Bam on Netflix, Bam is a pound fighter, undefeated, regarded as one of the best. I really do think it could be the last dance. It could be the last time we see the monster in the ring. Because I don't think they want him to go to featherweight. I've seen Naoya Inoue in person many times. In fact, I said it here on this channel back in 2024, late 2024, when I saw Inoue one night at Ohashi Boxing Gym. I said, yo, he's really, really small. He is not a featherweight, But they talked about it so much that I love the idea, and, I wanted to see him fight Angel Leo. But it is what it is. He's going to stay at 122. I think he beats Bam. That's the perfect way to go out. You could genuinely go out with a cherry on top like that. And you'll do it on a big platform in front of a big audience, maybe the biggest audience of your entire career. So it's big for him, it's big for Bam, it's big for the sport of boxing, and could also be on the other side. Bam beats Inoue. This is a real passing of the torch moment in the sport of boxing, where Inoue, the dominant factor in the lighter weight classes in the post Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez era. He took that. He didn't necessarily take it from Roman Gonzalez, but he became that guy after Roman Gonzalez kind of faded to black. Now Bam beats him. He now becomes that new guy, in the sub featherweight area of boxing. So I'll leave it at that. Inoue versus Bam, Netflix, massive event, massive occasion. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.